That's 101.1 FM and AM 1160. She is Nicole Sipos, Borough Manager for Indiana, and she's brought with her a guest who's going to explain snow plowing and road treatments in the wintertime. Our conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, voted best personal injury law firm in the Best of Indiana County contest. Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. I trust it was a wonderful Christmas holiday for you, Nicole?
It was. It was a great time. A little cold, but other than that, got to spend it with family and friends. So
there you go.
It was nice.
There you go.
But I did bring with me Paul Gallis, our Public Works Director, because we both, I and some of my colleagues got some, council members got some phone calls over the weekend, like, hey, what's going on? What's the roads? And so we wanted to kind of explain our protocol, the borough's protocol, and maybe let Paul chime in here to say, you know, what roads are actually the borough and the state roads. Some people get confused, like 9th Street.
Sure.
It's not even a borough road, and what we can actually do when it's 20 below. So
Yeah.
It's, you know, we see the snow out there and we see the ice, but what can we physically do as, you know, the public works crew? So some of the questions we fielded is like, hey, why aren't you guys out there salting? You know, and Paul, what's the answer to that?
If it's below 20 degrees, we're going to have, basically, you're just going to have salt sitting there because it won't react.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Salt only works at above 20 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And usually, isn't the optimum temperature like 27?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think with plowing too, the difference, and I didn't know that too, like, so what's the, like, how much snow do you have to get to for actually our plow trucks, or, you know, those huge plow trucks? So it's not like those little plows that people use on their driveways and stuff.
We need at least a couple inches of snow in order for our plows to work properly. And we're out today and not really pushing much because there isn't that much. Just some spots out there where we might have wind blown, where we have just a little bit, but.
I think around the side or around the stop signs, you're trying to get hills.
We are through because it has warmed up and it's supposed to be 30 degrees today. We are putting salt at stop signs where it might be a little hazardous to try to stop.
Yeah. Got to keep fire hydrants clear too, don't you? And it's good if people recognize that and they say, you know, I ought to clear that fire hydrant out.
Yeah, around if you're on Philly Street, if sidewalks too, every homeowner and business owners are responsible for the sidewalks. We do have a parks department now that's going to be helping out with the sidewalks down Philly Street, but right now we're in the middle of hiring a additional crew for that.
Yeah. Now, Paul, when we're talking about plowing the streets that Indiana Borough is responsible for, sure helps if there's not a car there, doesn't it?
It does, but I also understand that we have residents that is the only place they can park. So we do the best we can to try not to plow them in, but we have to go around them the best we can and try to keep the roads open.
Yeah. You also have to watch out for people who are out there moving about in their vehicles because that's one of the things I think people don't realize most of all is that the visibility in a snowstorm is bad enough for any of us. Visibility from a plow is even more dicey.
Yes, especially if we do have a lot of snow where it can blow back up over and make it difficult for us to see. The crew, you have a very, very good crew in the streets department here in Indiana, and they do a wonderful job. And Friday, we ran almost 30 tons of salt through it, and of course you couldn't tell because the weather had dropped dramatically, but we were out there. We actually put plows on and they were out and plowed the best they could with what little snow we had to try to get some salt down and get it where it would react. But unfortunately we just used basically 30 tons of salt for not much at all.
With the weather being so
because
cold.
of the weather being so cold.
Yeah. I'm sort of reminded of the old World War II movies where they were outfitting the planes. And do we put torpedoes on them or do we put bombs on them? You know, and do we have to take them back down below deck here in the aircraft carrier and refit them because conditions change so quickly in the wintertime?
Yes, and the past two on Thursday and Friday, the weather seemed to go right at when we started in the morning. So we had to rush a little bit to get out, and the crew did a fantastic job the day before. Friday, it was just with the wind blowing and the cold, and not quite enough snow to plow, but the snow coming down.
Yeah, we rely a lot on the police in the evening, and the police department and EMS. Like, that's who would call Paul out, or call Paul, and then Paul would call the crew out if, you know, during the middle of the night or the wee hours of the morning. So if they're out and about, if EMS is out, or the fire, sometimes if there's that fire, that they would get called out for salting. So that's who we rely on to get the word to us. That
Now, with that said, I want to make sure it is ultimately my responsibility. It is not their responsibility.
Sure.
They are fantastic at calling and saying, "Hey,
everybody works
it's
together.
a little slippery here," and then it's my responsibility to decide what we need to do. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure nobody holds anything against anybody but me, because it's not.
No,
their-
they all work together. They do a good job working together.
Yeah, and I think it's
everybody.
pretty important for people to realize that it's not if we need to do, it's what do we need to do? What's the best
Right.
course of action?
Yes, and what materials that we have to physically,
Yeah.
you know, we don't have, you know, and obviously when you compare Philadelphia street roads to the side street roads, you know, Philadelphia street, you have cars on it all the time. So their roads are going to look a little bit, state roads are going to look a little bit more clearer than some of our side roads.
Yeah, now let's talk about that, because as you said, within Indiana Borough, there are roads that are PennDOT's responsibility
Correct.
and Indiana Borough's responsibility.
Yeah. Paul, I know 9th Street and Philly Street.
And I may miss, because I'm just going off the top of my head, but we have South 6th as a state route. We have 7th as a state route, and which goes into Wayne Avenue.
Yeah.
That is a state route. We have Oakland Avenue, state route. We have North 9th, which is a state route, North 5th, which is a state route.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some that we, unfortunately, aren't able to touch because that is a state route.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's the state's responsibility to get that done. But you work in close concert with them too, don't you?
Yes, and White Township, because we're kind of surrounded by White Township, and almost forgot North 4th is also a state route. So
Yeah.
we have to work with a lot of people. It's a lot of moving parts, but it usually works very well.
Yeah.
I understand some residents may be upset over the snow on the roads for the weekend, but that was
More of a safety thing, huh? If you would have cleared
because I could have come and tried to plow, and we might have gotten a little bit, but then we would have had ice underneath it and freezing temperatures, even with traffic, because the salt itself doesn't do a lot unless you have traffic running over it and getting it to work. So
sometimes the snow over the ice is a little bit of
yes. And as I said, with it being warmer today, we're out plowing and throwing salt down in different areas and intersections where it might be dicey to try to stop.
Now, this weekend will be interesting because temperatures are going to warm, and we've got rain in the forecast for Saturday and for Sunday, and then warmer temperatures next week. But there are times in the wintertime when you've got ice and rain at the same time, and then it transitions over to rain. And if you're throwing salt down on there, that rain is just going to wash it right off the road before it has a chance to do anything.
Yes, no, that is correct. That's luckily we seemed to dodge the first wave where it was going to be freezing rain and then go into it was freezing rain, and then into snow. It wasn't nearly as bad as we had anticipated. We try to always err on the side of bad, so we know we can
to get prepared for it.
Yeah.
Trucks are all loaded and ready to go at all times during this time of the year.
What other questions, or did you get other questions from folks?
No, basically that, hey, why, if they don't see us out there, what below 20, it's not, sometimes there's just really nothing we can do.
Yeah.
We just hope people maybe stay inside.
Yeah. And, once or twice every winter, we get a really big snow. It's going to be a snow that's 8, 10, 12 inches. And that'll happen, and it might take a while to get to some area because you have
Right.
priorities on the streets
Around the
themselves.
school, definitely around the schools, and
Yes.
that's kind of their priority. Like if you know how schools, that's his
somebody-
phones are always going off.
Somebody calling Paul saying, "Hey, I disagree with that."
No, yeah, I
That's a good
think
possibility.
that's during when school has a 2-hour delay. I know they're out there getting around the schools a lot.
Sure.
Mostly if it's real bad, schools cancel. But if not, that's where they hit their most priorities is around the schools.
Yeah, and then the cleanup after when you have a big snow, the cleanup after might take a day or so because it all hits at once, and everybody wants their street cleaned off now.
Yeah, and you got to find somewhere for all the snow to
And
go.
we have to find a place to put it.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have some areas where we can, but last year it took probably a couple weeks. We had
Philly Street.
snow piled up over the. Now we
mountains.
can't plow or do anything on Philadelphia Street, but around the meters, the sidewalks, all that need.
Yeah.
So as I said, the crew is excellent. They do a great job. They come out anytime they're asked. I couldn't ask for better.
I will hit town because I get here very, very early in the morning. I'll hit town at 10 till 3 on a typical morning. And in the wintertime, sometimes I'll see that huge mountain of snow and front-end loaders that are loading it onto the trucks on Philadelphia Street. And you guys are out there. You're the only ones working. But
yeah, they get out there early before sometimes like that to be able to clear. They have to get out before the cars
Before
are out.
traffic starts hitting.
Yeah.
We try not to hinder anybody with what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're right. It takes an awful lot of coordination, and for folks to be understanding is certainly very, very helpful. Yeah. Okay. So at this time of year, we should all be in a happy mood anyway, right, Nicole?
We should be, yeah. It was an eventful Christmas, nice Christmas, other than the cold weather, and we should be ready for January. Start 2023 off and running here.
That's right. We look at things, and maybe, I don't know, Paul, if you watch or listen to the folks at places like AccuWeather and everything for long-term planning, but Heather Zare from AccuWeather told us the month of January is going to be above average in temperature and above average in precipitation, too. So that gets you to thinking, okay, well, how do I plan for that?
Yeah.
You can't plan too far ahead, but
Right.
at least you get it on your mind about things that you need to do. Salt supplies and other supplies always important as well, and that's a little bit of a science and mathematical exercise too, isn't it?
It is a very, very. I relied with last year being my first year. I relied a lot on the crew and they did a great job. We ended up right where we needed to be at the end. I sometimes have to lean on them for their knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have some crew members that's been here for 20 some years, so they have the experience.
Sure. They know the ins and outs. All right, Nicole. Well, that's a quite educational process you brought to us here.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be an interesting topic after the last couple of days.
Sure. All right, so we move now into 2023. From an Indiana Borough standpoint, anything we need to know of things coming up?
Yeah, council meeting on January 3rd. We'll do some of the 2023 appointments, the borough engineer, secretary, manager, chief of police. We have a spot open on the Shade Tree Commission, a code enforcement board of appeals, and the zoning hearing board. So we'll be looking for somebody to fill those slots. We got some 2023 projects going on, the 11th Street and 15th Street project. It's a big stormwater improvement project. And we're going to be talking about ARP funding once again at the work session in January.
Yay!
Yeah, spending some more money.
There you go. Well, we appreciate your coming over to tell us about it. Paul, thanks for explaining, this whole formula that goes on when you get to the wintertime. It's a
I did
amazing.
the best I could. I may have made mistakes, but I did the best I could.
You did a great job.
We did. The crew's a
appreciate
good
it.
crew. We'll get through this winter. We do every year. So
Thanks, folks, for coming in. We
all right.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160. Jake in the newsroom coming up. Here is Mr. Boomer on this Tuesday morning.